Hello and welcome to another episode of Football Talk Podcast. My name is Ozzie and I'm your host for today's show. Firstly, I'd like to wish all my Muslim brothers and sisters out there Ramadan Mubarak. I hope your first day of fasting went well today. It went well for me, which is good. So let's talk about Liverpool. It's probably been a blessing in disguise that Liverpool haven't played this week, with it being an international week. And I'll be honest, there's a lot to discuss about. Maybe I'm thinking a bit too far ahead in terms of the summer, but this club definitely needs a rebuild. A lot of uncertainty in terms of the ownership. For me, I think the owners, FSG, are looking for new investors. So I don't expect, new ownership. Not like Manchester United, who had a deadline yesterday of several interested parties there. There's also speculation of a potential new director of football coming in. At this stage, strong rumours regarding Monaco's Paul Mitchell, but who knows who the club are targeting right now. But what we can do is evaluate the squad, and I'll give you my opinion in terms of who I believe should stay at the club, who should be sold, and who should be loaned out. So without further ado, I'll show you some graphics here, and then we can go player for player. So first player, Alisson. So I don't think I need to speak too much about Alisson. He's been by far our best player this season and a world-class goalkeeper. So keep 100%. I don't need to, speak too highly or make a case for him in this situation. But yeah, so he obviously stays. Kelleher, which is an interesting one. So personally, I would like Kelleher to stay, but I have a feeling that he would like to possibly leave the club for first team football, which is fair enough as he's a young goalkeeper. He is in the international fold with Ireland and he probably wants more regular time. So reluctantly, I would say he will be sold in the summer. So I've placed him here. The third player is Adrian. So his contract is expiring. I do not expect the club to renew his contract, even when his contract got renewed a couple of years back. A lot of Liverpool fans, including myself, were surprised by that decision, considering the performance he showed for Liverpool, and that match against Atletico Madrid comes to mind. But I think now is the time for both parties to part their ways. So I expect him to leave this summer as well. So I've put him in the Seel section. Now that's the three goalkeepers there. We'll go on to the defense. So we'll start off with left back. So Tsimikas, for me, has actually been strongly linked with a few clubs, but I would love to see him stay at the club. I think he's fantastic for what he does. Great cover for Robertson. Brings different tools to the pitch as well. Has great variation in his passing. So I would like to see him stay at the club. So in that regards, I'll put him in the keep section. And Robertson, I know some fans do have their reservations of Robertson, that he hasn't been consistent in the last year or so. For me, he's still arguably one of our best defenders. And yeah, would never think of selling him at this stage. So he goes in the keep section as well. Centre back. So Van Dijk, yeah, still one of our best defenders to say the least. And yeah, I don't expect to see him leave the club anytime soon. So obviously he stays. The next one is Nathaniel Phillips. So a player that has been in the fringes of the squad. Unfortunately for me, I think he should have been given more game time this season, considering we've had a lot of injuries in the centre-back area, but also inconsistency with some players, i.e. Matip and Gomez. So I feel like he should have had more opportunities to play this season. Unfortunately, it hasn't happened for him. I believe he was very close to leaving in the January window. I think Galatasaray were pretty much agreed a deal for him to be signed. So I think the summer will be the time that Nathaniel Phillips departs, which is a shame. I think whenever he plays for Liverpool, he does give his all, which is what you want to see from a defender. but I think it's the right time for the player and for the club to part ways. So he will go in the sell section there. Now, another player is Reece Williams, who we haven't seen much of this season. Now, look, this is one of my bizarre outtakes, but hear me out. I think we'll keep him. And it's no offense to the player, but there's only one reason why we would keep him, and that's due to the homegrown quota. As you'll see when I analyze the squad in numbers, there's a reason why I think that we will end up sticking with Reece Williams in the team. So for now, he stays in the keep section, but the picture will be a bit more clearer as I proceed. So the next player is Konate. No way are we selling Konate. So he goes in the keep section. He's by far been one of our best players, up and coming as well, a beast of a defender. And yeah, I can see him starting a lot more games next year. For me, it's not really been his quality that is in question. It's more to do with his injuries. So if he can stay fit, we've got a top defender in our hands. So he certainly stays. Another player is Matip. So I believe after the season, he will have 1 year remaining in his contract. A lot of fans have already showed some unrest with his performances this season. I'll be honest, he hasn't been as great as he was last year, but for me, he's still a quality player. Would it be worth having him for 1 year, let him go on a free? It's not the way you should be doing business as a football club, but at this stage, I don't see there being a big harm. We're not losing money. We signed him on a free transfer as well. And I think at this stage, his experience would be quite useful going forward into next season. So I would keep him. So let me know what you guys think. I'm sure this will have split opinions in regards to Matip. The next one is Joe Gomez. So this one will have, I would like to say split opinions, but I feel like a lot of fans may agree with me. I think it's time for Joe Gomez to leave Liverpool Football Club. This season, I just feel like he's been out of his depth. He hasn't been the same player, unfortunately, due to the 2-3 serious injuries he's suffered in the last few years. I feel like with the emergence of Konate, he's gone down the pecking order, and Matip as well. For me, he's actually better utilized as a right back, but I feel like in hindsight, he would be a good player to keep. One, because he's homegrown. Two, he can cover centre back and the right back position. But I feel like at this stage of his career, and I know we're not completely a sell to buy club, but at this stage, because there's so much uncertainty with how the club is being run, I have to put that hat on and believe that we are sell to buy, because I can't see money being generated in any shape or form. We're told there'll be investors. At this stage, I can't see it. So thinking that we're going to be a sell to buy, and with that in mind, I'll put him in the sell section because I feel like he has some sort of value in the transfer market. Already speculation that Newcastle are interested in placing a bid. Not sure what the fee would be, but I think that would be something to consider. So I would sell him. So that's a huge one for me because I'm a big fan of Joe Gomez. But at this stage, to improve the squad, he's one of the assets that will actually bring some money into the club. So that's my view on Joe Gomez there. The next player is Trent Alexander-Arnold. Despite what everyone says in terms of defending, for me, he's a quality player. He's just having a bad season, which happens to a lot of players. And I think he'll come back stronger next year. So obviously he stays. Calvin Ramsay. So interesting one. A lot of high hopes regarding this player. Unfortunate with injuries. I think he just picked up one recently as well. Not really had a chance to play much games. So I would think it would be silly to loan him out. I think that's what a lot of fans would expect, to give him some game time. But I feel like even if he's just around the squad, I would say he's a good player to have where he can learn off the likes of Trent. I personally believe we should have another right back to cover Trent Alexander-Arnold because he's been overworked and that's why he's been exposed in so many games. So I feel like going forward, a new right back should be brought into the club, but also Calvin Ramsay can take his time to develop. He shouldn't have to be rushed into the first team. So with that said, I think we will keep him in the summer. So that's Calvin Ramsay there. And then we'll move on to midfield. So yeah, the midfield is going to be an interesting one. So the first one is Fabinho. So I know he's been showing some good form recently, but I have to look at the bigger picture. I don't think he's the same player as probably 12, 18 months ago. We lack a lot of energy in that midfield. He doesn't even win tackles as much as he used to, and that is his sole role, to be the Hoover, as Klopp likes to call him. And he's shown glimpses here and there, but I feel like maybe he's not capable of doing the things that he used to do, which sounds harsh, but I feel like we need to reinvent ourselves as a squad, bringing in younger faces and new legs to the team. So I would say sell Fabinho in the summer. That's a big one, but I feel like Gomez, I feel like he still holds a bit of value in the market. There will be a lot of interested parties for him. So this would be the time to cash in my opinion. Next one, Henderson. So a lot of fans, and I know on social media, have said, sell, sell, sell. He's not the same player. He's not worth starting, blah, 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 blah. For me, he's still the captain. I would personally have him more as a squad player next year. So kind of what Milner does right now. So he wouldn't be expected to start every game. He'll play in important games and will be rotated a bit more smartly in that regard. So I would still keep Jordan Henderson in the squad. Next one is Thiago. I already saw rumors circling that people would want to sell him, or there's been reports that Liverpool are considering selling Thiago. For me, that is not an option. So he goes straight into the keep section. One of our most technically gifted players in the squad. Yes, I know he's injury prone. He can't be expected to start in week in, week out. That's why for me, we should sign more midfielders where we don't heavily rely on Thiago, but he's our sort of luxury player where he comes in, does a great job, but we can also rest him in certain games as well. So not as frequently as Henderson, but I would say he would be a great player to have on the bench or to start most of the games, but be rotated with other new midfielders that I'm hoping to see in the summer. So he stays for the club. And next is James Milner. So already rumors right now that we're about to offer him a contract extension. For me, I don't think that's the right way to go. He offers experience, of course, and offers leadership with the young players that we have. But I feel like it's time to move on. I feel like in the future, it'd be great to have him as a coach or in some capacity, whether it's for the under 21s or within the first team's management. But yeah, for me, yeah, he has to go. I don't see the point of him staying for another year. That's just my opinion. So I'll put Milner in the sell section. Next one is Naby Keita. So yeah, for me, for me, he should have been sold a long time ago. Surprised he's still at the club. So yeah, he's never available. He's as much of a hologram as Arthur is right now. So he goes in the sell section. And speaking of Arthur, I don't think we'll ever see him playing for Liverpool this season. And his loan deal will end in July. So he'll be sent back to Juventus. So he goes in the sell section as well. And then you've got Oxlade-Chamberlain. So it's a shame how his Liverpool has panned out. I watched a highlight reel the other day on Twitter where it showed his sort of goals and assist and talent on the ball before that crucial injury that he had in his first season at the club. Yeah, had he not suffered that injury, who knows? He could have been a very, very important player for the club. But unfortunately, we need to reinforce our midfield, and numbers need to be reduced in order to bring more players into the club. So Ox goes in the sell section. Next is Jones. So this one definitely gives me sort of mixed opinion in terms of what to do. Curtis Jones, I did say earlier in the season that this is his make or break season, in my opinion, and he hasn't really done much, to be fair. I know he's had a few injuries, but whenever he's come on, he's not really had much of an impact on the pitch. I don't feel like he has urgency in his play. Like, he's very lethargic on the ball. Technically a good player, but I feel like maybe a Liverpool playing for a club at Liverpool, or Liverpool's level, I should say, isn't for him. Maybe playing at another team in the Premier League would suit him more, like a mid-table team. Well, we're mid-table to some extent, but I don't see him having a long-term future. Now, that's my opinion. I would sell Curtis Jones. I can see him staying at the club on the basis of the homegrown quota and and I think he's content with being a squad player. But as this is my show, I'm going to put him in the sell section. So, and that's that with that one. Next player is Elliot. So Elliot for me has shown good promise playing in the centre midfield. I still feel like there's a lot of improvement for him in terms of his defensive awareness. Sometimes his end product could be better, especially shooting. That's one area I feel like he could really improve. Despite him scoring quite a number of goals this year, I feel like his tally could definitely increase. So Klopp's a big fan of his. I think he's a good talented player. I don't think he's quite suited for that right wing role, which is why, for me, I would like to see a right winger come into the club in the summer. But at least he's able to occupy that position as well. So in that regards, I think he should stay. So I'll put him in the keep section. So next player is Bajcetic. So the shining light to Liverpool's second half of the season, to say the least. And he's got a great future ahead of him. So yeah, it's a shame he suffered an injury. Hopefully it's not too serious. Hopefully he's back in pre-season and ready to go. I'm looking forward to seeing how he does next year. So he'll definitely stay at the club. On to the next one. So you can see a lot of keeps, a lot of sells. What about the loans? I think one player that will be loaned out is Fabio Carvalho. At this stage of his career, it feels like there's no room for him in the squad. We're not playing a 4-2-3-1 formation, and he's naturally a number 10. So you would expect him to occupy that role. In a 4-3-3, for me, he's too lightweight to play as a number 8. And out wide, for me, he doesn't have electric pace to outrun a fullback. And stylistically, it doesn't suit us in terms of how we want to play. That's why we've got Núñez on the left, because he is obviously very quick, offers a different outlet out there. Carvalho, for me, hasn't really been given a chance, which is one thing I would say that if we've seen him on the pitch, we would have a different opinion. Maybe Klopp doesn't fancy him as much as we had thought last summer. Maybe there's an attitude issue regarding training. I don't know. I'm just trying to probably clutching straws here. That might not be the issue, or it might simply be he's not ready to play first team football at Liverpool. So with that being said, I think a loan move would suit him, getting some regular football. And who knows, he might have a long-term future at the club. But at this stage of his career, I think he needs to play games, especially as he was playing regular football for Fulham in the Championship. And I feel like he's digressed since he joined the club. So a loan move for me would be very useful for him. Another player that is having a great loan spell right now is Tyler Morton for Blackburn Rovers. I believe he'll be back in the squad for pre-season. I think he should be loaned out one more time, ideally to a Premier League club, and let's see how he plays at that level. And then maybe next year not next season, the following season. So I'm thinking even further ahead. I'm thinking 2024. He might have a future at that time, depending on how successful he is in his long spell. So I think he's shown great ability for Blackburn. I know they rate him very, very highly there. So yeah, I think a loan move will be great for him. Now, Salah is the one that's getting, I think it's Twitter, I think it's social media, but some fans are happy or content of seeing him leave the club for 80 million, which is ridiculous. That is not a fee that should be on Salah's head right now. That is too low for my likings. Getting 80 million for Salah, who do you expect to replace with that money? You're not going to get that caliber of player for 80 million. So we're not exactly blessed with wealth of money right now in terms of our ownership. So for me, Salah 100% stays at the club. It would be a very naive and ridiculous decision to sell him. So he stays at the club. Jota. So this is an unpopular opinion. I'll actually sell Jota. And I'll explain why. So he's had interest or rumored interest from Newcastle for 70 million. I would literally bite their hand off for that deal. 70 million would be a great amount of money to improve the squad. Doesn't have to necessarily go on a similar type of player as Jota. It could be spread around for our midfield, or it could be, or we could sign another attacker who has a different profile to Jota. For me, I think he hasn't played many games. He's been injury prone for the last 18 months. He hasn't scored a goal in almost a year, which is a crazy stat to think about as well. And he just seems to have lost that yard of pace. I don't know if that's me, but I feel like doesn't have that dynamic burst of speed when he's on the ball anymore. And in front of goal, he's not as confident. Maybe that's because of lack of games and stuff. But look, if he stays at the club, I'll be happy. I'm a big fan of Jota. But I feel like if there is interest out there and they're willing to pay 70 million, I think it's a deal worth considering. So with that said, I think it might be worth selling Jota in the summer. So definitely an unpopular opinion. Let me know what you guys think in the comment. That's just my view on that one. Darwin Núñez, he has to stay. Obviously, we spent a lot of money on him, big money signing last year, and he is a project player, isn't he? Like he's the one we're looking forward to in the long term. So for me, he's shown great moments this season. At the early stages, very erratic in front of goal. Has improved in terms of his decision making. I feel like there's a lot of room for improvement. I think he needs to be more composed in front of goal, especially in one-on-one situations. But I think that'll come with time and experience. So looking forward to how he does next season as well. So he certainly stays for me. And then next you've got Diaz. So Diaz has just returned from injury. Me personally, I would not like to see him play this season. Let him heal and let him be ready for pre-season and then get the ball rolling there. You shouldn't be rushed in. If he suffers another injury, we'll be just pulling our hair out right now. So yeah, for me, Diaz 100% stays. Gakpo, obviously recent signing from January, so you wouldn't expect to sell someone so soon. For me, he's shown some decent games. I feel like there's a lot of room for improvement from him. But I do like it when he plays in that false nine position. Link-up plays really good, has a good finish on him. Just needs to be a bit more consistent, I think, with his game. So with that being said, I definitely think he'll stay at the club. And Bobby Firmino, unfortunately, has already announced that he will be leaving the club. I didn't have a preference if he stays or not, but I feel like if he stayed, it would have been great for us to have an experienced player in attack. But at the same time, we're probably trying to bring in younger players to invent our attacking force. So therefore, he would have to leave. So I've placed him in the sell section. So let me know what you guys think in terms of my analysis there. Have I been too kind with certain players? Have I been harsh? Let me know what you think. In terms of the squad here, so we're probably thinking like that's a lot of players you're selling. It seems a bit FIFA-ish in terms of how I've done it because when you play FIFA, you're selling players to get players, all that sort of stuff. But I feel like we need a serious rebuild to get back into the firing front. Right now, we're under delivering as a team. We haven't recruited over the years, and we're paying the price for it right now. So this is how I feel like we should be looking forward to in the summer. And like as I mentioned before, I think we are a sell to buy club. I know a lot of fans disagree with that because there's been evidence to say, like, look, we've signed Gakpo. That wasn't money that was found because we sold the player. The thing is, FSG are great at negotiating deals in installments. So that's why if we're linked to a player that has a release clause, very unlikely we'll go for that player because we like to negotiate and have a 5-6 year plan to pay that transfer fee off. So yeah. Also, what I'd like to do is share a graphic to show you with all of those players that I've listed to be sold. How much money would we generate if we sold those players? And is that enough money to put back into a squad? So let me put a graphic up for you guys. Here we go. So here it is in black and white for you guys. As you can see in big numbers there, 205 million total revenue generated from players sold. So Kelleher, now these are prices that are based on what I've seen in the media. It's not just numbers that are thrown out there. So these are quoted prices or transfer value of these players. So I think we could easily get 25 million for Kelleher. 25 million for a Premier League goalkeeper is not a big step in my opinion. So I think that's easily attainable. Adrian goes in a free, but obviously his salary will be a good chunk of money that would go into that pot in terms of recruiting a new player. Phillips, I believe there was interest in him last year with Bournemouth, and they were ready to pay us 10 million. So I think that value is probably the ball marks, and I think it's a realistic one to get as well. Joe Gomez, for me, 40 million. For me, thinking that's a bit too high. I don't think so because you've got a player who's still young. I believe he's 24, 25. Can play right back, can play centre back, can play in the back three, can play in the back four. Played for England in the past as well. Homegrown. So there's a lot of ticks in terms of signing a player like Gomez. A club like Newcastle would definitely be interested. And I know they've got a lot of checkbooks that could certainly help us in that regards. I feel like 40 million is a fair amount to attain for Joe Gomez there. Fabinho, for me, 35 million. Some might say that's a little bit high, possibly. But I feel like he's still a quality player. And I feel like in a different league, he might actually be more effective on the ball and more effective for the team. So maybe playing in Serie A would suit his ability, maybe even La Liga. So I still feel like there will be teams out there that would still go for Fabinho, and would probably just view his season at Liverpool as a bad season. But for us, I feel like we need to bring in fresh faces into the squad and some new blood in our midfield. Milner, for me, would go on a free. Ox, Navigator as well. Arthur, his loan would have ended, so he goes back to his parent club, which is Juventus. Curtis Jones, I think 25 million. You're probably thinking that's still high, but I feel like in this day and age, especially the transfer market, 25 is not that high of a fee. You saw the Gibbs White, who went for 45 million to Nottingham Forest. For me, same kind of level players. And he went for twice the money. So I think I'm being a bit modest on that one. Jota, 70 million. I don't know if we'd get that kind of price for him, but because of the strong reports from Newcastle being interested, and that's the quoted price. That's what I've gone for there, and I would happily take that fee there. And then you've gone for Firmino for free. So 205 million. That is a lot of money. Now, can we reinvest that in the squad? I believe we can. but you'll have to stay tuned for that. So I'll have another episode next Tuesday where I will present how I would spend that money into the squad and what sort of profile of players we should be looking at. And I'll even give you suggestions of players that I believe should be signed at the club. So that concludes the show today. So thank you guys for tuning in. If you haven't already, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts on the content today. As mentioned, next show will be next Tuesday at 10 p.m. UK time. So yes, take care, guys. Stay safe. And I hope to see you all very soon. Goodbye.